And welcome back to the show. Well, there is so much going on in the world at the moment of Unleash the Archers that we thought today we would actually get one of the members of the band, Brittany, on the phone to chat a little bit about everything that's happening, because there's a new single, there's a new album on the way, and a tour of Australia coming up as well. So with so much to talk about, welcome to the show, Brittany.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
No worries. Now, like I said, there is so much going on. We're about to play the brand new single, Seeking Vengeance, on our show in just a moment. But tell us a little bit about this brand new album. It's a concept album, and I've got to say, the concept behind it is absolutely amazing. So I was wondering if you could tell our listeners a little bit about it.
Sure. So it's about Phantoma, which is the name of the album, and she is a sentient AI that's in a computer in the beginning of the story, and she runs a hub, which is like the future of the Amazon warehouse, I guess you could say.
Yep.
And the planet has been destroyed by climate change, and humans all now live in these beautiful glass biomes all over the planet because the air is no longer breathable. And the hub that Phantoma works at services one of these biomes. So she watches humanity from afar and makes sure that they have everything that they could ever need, and sees them on, the Netaverse, which is like the future of the internet and social media and all that stuff. And she just kind of, falls in love with them and wants to be one of them. So she escapes and puts herself into the body of an android and kind of goes on a bit of an adventure. And of course there are pitfalls, I suppose. And she comes up against a couple of baddies, and adventure ensues.
It's such an amazing concept, and you actually came up with this concept back in 2021, I believe, before we kind of saw this onslaught of AI in the media and things like that. How did you come up with the concept in the first place?
Well, it was inspired by old school science fiction.
Yeah.
I'm a big movie nerd. I love science fiction movies, love fantasy. I love movies just in general. But science fiction is probably one of my favorites. So it's it's born out of a love of Star Wars and Blade Runner and Terminator and the Alien franchise, movies old and new, and Star Trek as well, of course. And I love comic books as well. There's a comic book series that I read called Tokyo Ghost that has a really cool depiction of the future of humankind, and that, I found some inspiration there as well. So it kind of just comes from like pop culture in general, and it's been told, the story has been told before, definitely, AI becoming sentient and turning against humanity, but I just wanted to tell my own story and put a bit of a modern spin on things.
Yeah, you kind of touched on my next question there as well, because I know about your love for pop culture, because I also host a pop culture show apart from an alternative music show, and I wanted to ask that. This story is so in-depth and so well thought out. Have you thought about turning it into a screenplay or another comic book as well?
Yeah, I actually hadn't really thought about the screenplay idea until I was doing another interview, and someone said, this is more like a movie than anything. And I was kind of like, oh, that's a cool idea, because I've been working on the graphic novels for our Apex and Abyss albums for a while. It's very slow going because it's it's like super detail oriented work, and I just haven't had a lot of time. But maybe I could write a script for Phantoma, see if Netflix will buy it or something.
Yeah.
You never know.
So the comic book idea is certainly open as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm definitely focusing on Apex and Abyss first. Those are I promised them to everyone first, so I gotta finish those. But then, maybe Phantoma, if the Apex and Abyss ones go well, then could, be a possibility to do one for Phantoma as well.
So once you had this idea, tell us a little bit about that songwriting process. Once you have a full idea for a concept album like this, how then do you start to sit down and turn that story into the songs that we hear on this album?
Yeah, so this time around, we released Abyss in 2020, which was, it had its blessing and a curse because, a lot of bands are pushing their records because of the pandemic and not being able to tour them and that kind of thing. And so we didn't have too much competition, but also that was the problem, is that the second we put it out, it was kind of like, okay, what do we do now? Because we can't tour it. So we started writing Phantoma, and so it was like, early 2021. I sent the sort of brief, like, paragraph synopsis to the boys, and along with a couple other ideas, and was like, okay, which one do we think will, lend itself best to a full-length album? And they all agreed that Phantoma was probably the best choice. So from there, I went about writing the track-by-track overview, which is how we have been writing our albums for a little while now. It's where I write the story out in chapters, basically, which are which signify each song. So chapter 1, track 1, here's what's going on in the story. Here's how I want the song to feel, like the sort of the tone and the emotion I want it to convey, and here's how I want the listener to feel when they're listening to it, and let's make this one super dark and heavy, or this one should be more ethereal and fast and fun, or that kind of thing. And then sometimes I'll even give examples of like songs or riffs or moments in other songs that I'm thinking of as kind of an inspiration. So then I do that for all 10 tracks, and then I send that to the boys, and they come back with riffs, and they'll say like, hey, I wrote this one, I was thinking this would be good for this song. And I'll be like, yeah, oh, that's perfect. Let's go from there. That's great. And then sometimes I'll say, oh, actually, that riff is better for this song, I think. Let's move that over here and kind of come back to that one. And then very rarely will I say, oh, I don't know, that riff just doesn't quite fit with the tone of this album, let's put it aside for now. So, and then once we have that for every song, where we kind of know the riff foundation of it, then we'll move forward and flesh out every song and make sure that they all fit together and that they all tell the story musically as well as lyrically, and that they get the flow of the whole story.
Yeah. Now, the new single, Seeking Vengeance, that is one of the darkest points of the album, but I understand there's a little bit of a Disney influence in there as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I grew up in the heyday of Disney, when a lot of people are going to argue with me, but when some of the best ones were put out, Lion King, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Pocahontas, it was just like the classic animated era of Disney being able to kind of do no wrong. And I just always loved the hero's journey, the story kind of that every movie would tell is always the same one, and then they're just epic sort of heroic anthems that they always had. So every lead character would always have this moment where they kind of reach a point where they have to discover who they are in the world, and where in their place and what they're going to be and what they have to do to get there. So it was just kind of that epic, cathartic moment that we wanted to capture with Seeking Vengeance, and we were listening to classic Disney soundtracks the whole time during this, because we just wanted it to kind of have an aura of the musical theater kind of aspect of Disney movies, and just wanted it to feel like that same kind of story that was being told, just instead of in a film, it would just be through music.
Definitely. It's something that I've been talking about a lot, and now I know that how much you love movies and love tracks from movies. I think you're the perfect person to ask. Do you think the soundtrack is starting to die out now that we only have digital media. Because I can remember as a kid or as a teenager, I would go watch a movie and then go straight around the corner to the record store and buy the soundtrack if I loved it. Do you think that's kind of dying out now these days because a Spotify list is just not the same as having a CD?
Honestly, I don't think so, because the movie soundtrack, you can still find it. It usually is difficult to find it, but most often I find that they do put it up on Spotify in full.
Yep.
Like, for instance, the Interstellar soundtrack is up there, and Prometheus, and what's another good one that I really loved? That was an awesome soundtrack. I can't even think of it right now. Oh. Anyways, just movies that in particular have moved me because the soundtrack is so amazing. Yeah. I often do search them out and able to find them on Spotify in full. So it's, I don't think that it is yet. And then also I feel like, if anything, music is becoming even more important, because this generation that's grown up with every song you could ever hope for at your fingertips whenever you want, feels to me like a generation that's a lot more involved with music.
Yep.
I don't know if there's a single, Gen Zer out there that wouldn't throw music on the second they got in their car, whereas I know tons of millennials and boomers and beyond that would absolutely rather sit in silence or don't automatically go to music for moments of just hanging out or driving in the car or any of that kind of stuff. So I think that soundtracks to movies are like extremely important in order to draw the moviegoer in and to help them immerse themselves even more so than ever before.
One of the things I love about Gen Z is, like, I went to an engagement party the other night of a Gen Zer, and the music that they were playing at their engagement party was everything from the 60s right through to today, which I love, because when I was growing up, my music influence came from my dad that worked in the music industry, and he introduced me to hard rock and metal and things like that. But I had so many friends that would be like, oh, I'm not going to listen to that. My dad listens to that. I find that Gen Zers are so much more open to listening to everything. Do you find that?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And it's just because I feel like it's always been that way, It was never, here's a select, sort of collection of records, and it's this special moment where my dad lets me pick through it and, and choose a song to listen to or whatever. It's just, hey, what do you want to listen to? And you just kind of let it recommend you the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and you are exposed to so much more. And it's not this it's not like a gate-kept thing, but it's not like this, that's that generation. It's just like, here's what's on Spotify today, So It's very different, I feel, a lot more open, and as opposed to you get this music from a particular place, thus it is associated with that person or place or generation,
Yeah, definitely. Now, I have to ask you before we go as well, the Australian tour that's coming up, how excited are you about being able to head down under for this amazing tour?
So excited. It's been, since our first album came out in 2009, we have been shipping CDs down there to people that I don't even know how they found out about us, back in the MySpace days. And we're just so excited to play for our fans that have been with us since the beginning, and our new fans as well, and everyone in between. So it's just going to be the raddest time. I know we're going to have such a party down there. It's something that we've been trying to do for a long time. We had it booked for 2020. It wasn't announced yet, but it was ready to rock, and we were just devastated at having to cancel that and everything else. So, yeah, we're stoked.
So, how many tracks from the new album can we expect as part of that set list? Because I know that you guys are very excited about being able to play the new tracks live. Can we expect a few of them in the set list this time around?
Absolutely, yeah. 3 probably. 3 or 4, maybe. Depends on the set time. I don't think we've figured that out yet. And then it also depends, a lot of we've had a lot of our Australia fans reach out to us and say, "Oh my God, please play this song from this album." So we don't want to play too much of the new, and then thus have to kick some of our older tracks off of the set list. So we want to have some old favorites in there as well as the new ones, and try and please everybody, which is impossible. But we're going to do our best. Yep. So probably, a little bit of everything, I hope.
I was going to ask that. With 6 albums in now, is it getting harder to put together a set list that keeps all of your fans happy now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I could totally understand why Metallica only plays certain tracks, because it's just like, it's difficult. And you're kind of like, okay, well, we could play this song or this song, but this song's 6 minutes and this song's 4. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, what do we want to do here? Do we want to barely have time to talk to our audience, or do we want to have a little bit more chill time, or what? Do we want to, like, come in fast and hard and then leave, or do we want to have a bit more dynamic to the set? And it's tough. We definitely talk about it a lot.
Awesome. Now we are running out of time very quickly, but I have 2 quick questions. One question I ask whenever I have a fan of graphic novels on our show: what graphic novels are you reading at the moment, and what do you feel our listeners should be reading at the moment?
I just got the most recent it was sort of I guess it's called an omnibus, the most recent volume of Saga, yep. Which originally the last one was put out like 5 years ago or something crazy like that. So it was just released late last year. I think it's volume 10, and it kind of it's all of the most recent issues that got put out. So I haven't actually even had a chance to take it out of the cellophane, but I'm very excited to finally read the next chapter of that story, because it's so epic and awesome. But I'm also reading Black Science, which is really cool, and Paper Girls. I've got that one. I'm about 3 volumes in on that one. Graphic novels that just like have like 6 series going at any given time. So it's can never. My pocketbook hates me though, because you can never get enough of those.
And of course, everybody should be reading Tokyo Ghost as well.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
So to finish off, what would you like to say to all of our listeners out there, not only before they sit down to listen to this amazing album, but also before they grab tickets to your tour? What would you like to say to everybody out there?
Just thanks for your support over the years, and hopefully you enjoy the new album, and we'll see you soon. It's going to be a party, so bring a party hats.